and welcome to the City Voice. Axiom, that's the word. Is it up there yet? Well, folks, an axiom is a rule or principle, self-evident, that requires no proof. Now, nobody talks about things being axiomatic, Paul. You know, I mean...
So conservative, is that axiomatic?
No, it's axiomatic is that conservatism requires intelligence, and the other thing requires blind faith, you know, falling off a cliff. But tonight we have a serious subject, and it has to do with, you know, it's got to do with gratitude, closure, respect. It has to do with remembrance, appreciation for those folks that sacrifice for us, so that you and I can be here with free speech, by the way, Paul.
Right.
All right?
Yep.
And it's the vets.
It's the veterans, yes.
The veterans.
Yes.
And apparently I downloaded the wrong thing, but the mission is the same. And it's honoring and trying to, well, let's talk about it. Let's introduce our guest.
I'll introduce the guest. So we have Stacy Mancello from the Lynn Senior Center. She's the Executive Director of the Council on Aging. And we have Maureen Teal, who is a resident coordinator?
I am a resident coordinator.
Yes.
In the Veterans
And
Department?
you're a licensed
For
social
Greater
worker?
Lynn Senior Service,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, she works for Greater Lynn Senior Services. She works for me. And we also have John Sachersky, who is the commander for VFW 1240 in Swampscott.
Correct.
You've been overlapped since Lynn, John. Am I correct? I mean, you interact with Lynn a lot.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did that parade thing.
Well, we interact. Joe, who will be coming on in the second half, is also a partner of mine along with a couple other guys. We interact with Sergeant Major and other units. We interact through the whole North Shore on the programs that we work. And my home base is the VFW Post 1240 in Swampscott. That's where things start, and that's where we start our
On
programs.
our next segment, we're going to have your partner in crime on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Joe Gould. Great guy.
So, ladies, tell me, what are we up to? What are the vets? What are you going to be doing for the vets?
Yeah, Stacey, why don't you talk a little bit about what we're going to do and where the idea came from?
Sure.
Yeah.
So where the idea came from is down at the senior center. I host a directors forum where I just have open hours where, what do you guys want to do? And it starts out as a bucket list. If the seniors want to go to Martha's Vineyard, we go to Martha's Vineyard. Ironically, on sometime last year, there was a couple of veterans in the group, and they said, can you get us to Washington, D.C.? And I said, well, that's a big task, but anything's possible. We presented it to the board, and we said, let's do it.
You're kidding.
No.
World War II and Korea?
Yep, World War II priority.
Yeah.
And then we'll come closer to present vets.
Anything about the Riveter, Rosie the Riveter, in your equation? Because I mixed up. I downloaded something
Right,
from
right.
a parallel site,
Right.
and I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
So, World War II, those folks got to be in their 80s and 90s,
Right.
aren't they? You know, so there aren't too many of them.
Right.
There's a good number in Massachusetts, many thousand actually. We're hoping in the catchment area we can find 45 World War II veterans that are healthy enough to make the trip
Really?
safely and easily.
45?
45 veterans.
Yeah, that's a great
And
number.
for each individual that wants to come on the trip, they're going to get to bring a companion with them. So that'll bring
Yep.
the total up to about 90, and then another 10 or 12 people,
Support staff, yeah.
nurses. I get to go. You know, it's going to be that kind of thing. And so we're going to do that. But the important thing, and this is something that I want to get to tonight, is the looking for support from the community.
Yeah.
We're hoping that people would be interested in sponsoring a vet.
That's axiomatic.
Yeah.
That's why that word's up there.
Right.
That should happen without any recourse, right? It's just, thank you. Thank you for giving me my liberties. Thank you, John. You served, I didn't.
Right.
And I thank you for that.
Well, it's always
Ladies,
nice
I
to
don't
say
know what
that,
your
Joe.
status was, but, you know, I'm sorry, John.
It's always nice to hear that kind of statement from anybody today anyhow, but I think that you see that more out in the communities more than ever today. If you go to the stores and stuff, I think the people, the younger generation is very surprising. You wouldn't think it, but when you go to stores, they're very polite and they always walk up and shake your hand. So it's out there more and more with us today. And what we want to do now if they've opened the door, is we've been asked to come in, myself and Joe Gould, been asked to come aboard, and we're very appreciative of doing this. So what we'll do now is, the the sign that you have here in front of you, which I think is phenomenal, whoever did this sign, if you could show that, Paul, I think it's amazing.
Oh, it is.
That was
And-
done by Margaret Gilligan in our marketing department. It's got a picture of the bus. By the way, Gliss is going to be a primary sponsor in this whole program. We want to make sure that this happens, and we'll be looking to you folks in the audience to come forward. We're looking for about $500 per veteran. So if anybody out there is interested in supporting a veteran, frankly, somebody who supported you back during the war, we'll be out looking for donations in the coming months. This is going to happen in September. And,
Yeah, at the end of September.
and we're calling it Let's Roll, or Vets Roll, I should say.
That's Libra, you know, mine's the 24th, so I know the Libra. So
Yeah.
you gals, someone approached you
Yep.
and said, you know, we're World War II vet, and we'd like to go to Washington. This is our bucket list, so to speak, right?
Bucket list. Blew
That's
my
it.
mind that, so a gentleman who served in our country came back, you know, had a family, raised his kids, and never been to Washington, D.C. The most patriotic man I've ever met,
Yeah.
never has been to Washington, D.C.
It's unbelievable.
And you-
I got
Well, no, I was just going to say that it's important to know that, you know, we're doing this, and, you know, we've kind of took the idea where a couple of guys wanted to go, and what we did is we reached back and we remembered from back in 2004, and John, you probably remember this, when you and others, primarily David Solomini,
Right.
put
Right.
together that trip where they did basically the same thing to go down for the commemoration of the new World War II memorial.
Right.
That was 2004. So we're kind of grabbing, we're stealing ideas as much as we can so we can make this.
Good ideas are always good to steal.
That's
You know,
right.
Good ideas. yeah.
And let me just say one more thing, and then I'll
Yeah,
keep
go ahead.
quiet. And Maureen, in her role, she works for us at Gliss, but she is working on a project for her master's degree program, and has agreed to take point on this. She is the project manager on this, and she's doing it on her own time, and we really appreciate her efforts there. It's
I think
making
that's
it-
terrific.
And I feel honored to have this position. I just per chance happened to be on what they call an honor flight, where they fly veterans to Washington from around the country, and they do a day trip. And just on my way home, flying into Baltimore, I happened to be on one of those flights, and I was really moved by it. And when I got this opportunity to take part in this adventure, I'm going to call it, because it's been an adventure, and look forward to going forward, I was just really thrilled to have that happen. So.
How can they help out there? Over and above dollars and cents,
Mm-hmm.
I suspect, could you use volunteers?
We actually do have a rolling roster that we're calling of unconfirmed volunteers right now. So people are calling in and saying, you know, I lost my dad many years ago, but I want to support the veterans movement. You know, if you need a volunteer, I'll volunteer. You know, snacks for the bus. You know,
yeah,
all
and
kinds of
another
stuff.
thing
Get Gliss, get a hold of Gliss, Paul? Or
Yeah, you
get,
definitely call Stacy and/or Maureen at Great Olin Senior Services. That would be a good way to do it. You contact me if you can. One thing I wanted to just point out is that in addition to, you know, maybe sponsoring a vet and sending in $500, if you know somebody, or if you are a vet out there and you want to go, or if you know somebody that may want to go, get a hold of us, because we want to start getting together a list of people that are interested in this
so
trip.
it's not limited to 45.
Well,
It can
we-
grow, it can shrink. How'd you get involved, John? I mean, this was your genesis, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're partnering with them, you support this, of course.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, like I said, we got the honor to come aboard through Kathy and Maureen, and it's just been phenomenal to work with these people, you know, to find that these kind of people want to come out and help the veterans, especially World War II veterans. I don't think people realize, Paul, there's so many World War II veterans out there that have never been to Washington, D.C., have seen the monument. I've had the honor with my daughter and my two daughters to see it in Washington, and it's an amazing, amazing, wonderful place. Now, what we're going to do, Joe and myself, with the permission of the rest of the board, we will take these signs now. We'll go to Peabody, Salem, Swampscott, all the local diamond. We call it the diamond, all the North Shore part of it. We'll put these signs up in every post and ask a post to represent and pay for a World War II veteran to go with that, so that will help. My post is already going to pay for 2 guys to go. So we have 2 people, maybe 3. We have like 4 or 5 in my post that are in the 90s, but they're very, very active and very great guys. And there's a lot more out, and I agree with Maureen. There's a ton out there, more than what people realize.
Really?
But if we get to the veterans and get to the VFWs, the American Legions, the Elks, the Moose Lodges, and all these other people, and go in there and represent ourselves in the right direction and say, listen, we want to send the World War II veterans from your area, Swampscott, Peabody, Salem, Saugus, Revere, Nahant. Would you guys represent one? And more than likely, I think that we'll get the money that helped us out, because then it will unload a lot of money. You know?
Well, wait a second. Let's use 50 as a universe.
Yeah.
It's $500 a clip, right? We're not talking $1 million here. That's 25,000. Am I right, Paul? You're the accountant.
Yeah, well, it's really 50,000 because there's going to be not only the veteran, but there's also
Plus
And the
one.
companion.
A
Okay.
companion, yeah.
Plus one.
So it's $50,000 as a universe. You and I were in the adult beverage business for years, and you remember there always were jars. Everybody would come with this big jar and something on it, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
you know. And everybody would throw a buck, particularly if they had a couple of brewskis that they were free with their money. Is there any idea of perhaps getting one of these and going to our local pubs, you know, and you know, they're there having the freedom to have a couple of adult beverages because John and his ilk were out there fighting for them, you know?
We've had a couple of fundraising ideas. We talked about, you know, corporate sponsors at a higher level. We talked about road races, dinner at a post. We have
You know,
a
I'd
lot
like to
of.
see, to be honest with you, I'd like to see the local politician take a couple of bucks from their little slush funds, you know what I mean? And say, hey, Dan Cahill, president of the Lynn City Council,
I'll
here's
take
500
it.
from me for my, you know, for my fundraiser, which they can do, can't they, Paul? You're
Yes, they
a
can.
politician.
I'll
Yeah,
take
they
it.
can.
Huh?
They can.
That's
And
a
it's
wonderful
fundraising.
idea, isn't it?
They're out there fundraising, and that's
Exactly.
not so axiomatic.
And that's axiomatic because we have to talk about this in the next segment later on.
And it's
It's
red,
about
white,
this-
and blue.
That's right. I like that. So it would be really good for some of. This is beyond Lynn. It's Greater Lynn, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, we're gonna try to. So we have a catchment area. Gliss has a catchment area, which is Lynn, Saugus, Linfield, Swampscott, and Nahant, and you know that's where we operate out of. So that's where we have the most cachet, if you will. But we're going to extend it beyond that to reach the numbers. So if somebody's from Peabody or somebody's from Salem or Marblehead, Revere, you know.
We have a phone call from Chelsea, so.
Yeah.
Well, $500 are not going to the Ritz. I'll tell you that. I mean, you're talking about a bus trip down there plus food and the restaurant. How long is it for?
Well,
So the trip is, we're leaving on Sunday, September 27th, and returning on Wednesday, September 30th. And let me just speak to the numbers. It was a logistical number. The 45 people, 45 veterans, and then 45 companions plus staff. We really looked at filling up 2 buses, and it just seemed to make sense to
No, that's
sort
nice,
of
yeah.
put a parameter around it that we thought was manageable and be able to, you know, it was because of the age of the veteran. They don't all have to have a companion, but we thought it would be a really great thing to have somebody with them who's able to just really focus on what their needs might be. So.
I mean, how can you beat the deal? 27th and you're back on the 30th, did you say? So that's basically 4 days, right? For $500, that's transportation, lodging, and food,
Yeah.
and sites?
and in the next segment, we'll be talking with our other guest about, you know, where we're going to be staying, which is pretty exciting too. But I want to save that for that's a tease for the next segment.
You got the teas?
Oh, yeah.
But guess what? We have to go to that break in about a minute, so I'm going to give the phone. 781-596-9641, 596-9641. Did I get it right, Paulie?
Yes.
Folks, listen, this is something good. You know, think about it. Pony up a dime, pony up a nickel, whatever it may be, it all adds up, doesn't it?
Yep.
When I say a dime and a nickel, that's
Yeah.
adult beverage talk for 1,000 or 500. Isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
So you can always send it here to our station in our name. Make sure it's a check so we don't cash it, not to us. Do you have a, you know, something do you write to?
Well, Gliss will be the treasurer of this. We will maintain a separate account to
I
put
got
this money
you.
in. So
So you put a gliss and you put a little notation down there for the vets.
yeah.
Yep.
We're going to go to a break on that. Now think about it. We'll be right back. And the word for tonight is axiom. And don't you forget that. That is a self-evident rule or principle that needs no proof. And with that, Paul, introduce our new guest.
So we have Mr. Gould.
We
This
do.
is John's sidekick and
One of the
partner
better
in
ones.
crime.
Yeah.
From Saugus. He's also a GE Lynn Veterans Council. And maybe if you can tell the audience a little bit about
what you've been doing over the years in your role on the Veterans Council.
Okay.
You obviously have been very involved in the parades and whatnot,
Sure.
and that's how we got to know you, because we were involved as well. And then maybe you can talk a little bit about the accommodations
Okay.
that you've arranged for us.
All right, sounds great. Well, I've been active on the GE Veterans Council since 2007. Our former plant manager, Corinne Johnson, who passed away unfortunately, and I started the council in 2007 from grassroots up with members of the Veterans Organization, and it was great. We've done a lot of community service. We partner with Habitat Plus. We do a lot of community service events around the Lynn area. But we expanded that in 2010 to all of GE, and I was fortunate enough to become the community service lead for all of GE for veterans. And so we've done some real good community service work around the country. One of which has been down at the mall at the World War II Memorial. I've had the honor to lead 200 people down there twice, and actually volunteered during the World War II honor flights and stuff when they come in. So I'm very familiar with the honor flights. I get emotional every time I talk about it as we see these heroes come in, most of them in their wheelchairs and stuff, and we line up and let them come through us and salute them. And it's just an incredible sight down there. So I have a lot of passion for this. So when John and I were contacted about, hey, you want to help? Absolutely.
Right.
We jumped right in. Now, I've been involved with GE for 40 years. I retired last June, but I still had a lot of contacts. So when these guys contacted me, they said, hey, we'd like to actually stay on Andrews Air Force Base, which is almost impossible to do. I said, well, let me see what I could do. Well, knowing some 3 stars and some other people, we pulled a few strings and got the right contacts, and we've got Andrews Air Force Base. The reason why this trip is so inexpensive is the Air Force Base is charging us a very low stipend to stay there. Everybody's staying there, including the bus drivers. So it's going to be great to stay right on the base. I also had some contacts set up so we can meet some of the state reps and other people. And
Who are going to donate, by the way? The state reps are going to
you
donate.
bet they're going to donate.
Yeah, you can.
But you want to talk about the itinerary a little bit while I'm going?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
wait a
Go ahead.
minute. Let's slow down a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
We'll get that itinerary out there. I also want to point out that you're very, you don't mind,
Nope.
he is in post-traumatic syndrome, right?
Yes.
You're big in that.
Yep.
I've invited you. I told you to talk to our producer. Paul, we're going to have to do some segments on that. That's a very important subject.
It is.
And we'll continue with this. And also, this is in September. So we're going to continue pounding away at this little thing. When's a good cutoff that you know the numbers? You need 6 months. What's the process time?
We're looking at least 60 days before, but we're going to be meeting much earlier than that. I mean, the sooner the better.
Obviously, but I'm talking
Because
about
it's first
if we
come,
run a little
first served.
campaign here in conjunction with Gliss and with the boys and the band. What is it? The big red line, green line, or whatever that is. If we put it together with that and we really push it
Yep.
and get our audience and the people in the city of Lynn to help us out, we need some time to do that, right? I mean, we have to send us the check here, make sure that says veterans.
Yeah, we'll be doing some solicitations to some of the bigger businesses, the banks and
But
whatnot.
there's no reason why the city voice can't do that.
No, right.
Right.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And folks, you understand that. Contribute a little bit. Instead of, by the way, we'll get that on that. Our number here is 781-596-9641. Now, let's get to that itinerary.
Itinerary.
Okay, so we get on the bus on Sunday, the 27th, and we head down. That evening, we're going to eat on base, so we'll have a relaxing evening. So we have the base set up to host us for eating. And then the next morning, we're going to have breakfast there on the base as well. And we pile into the bus and we go to the mall. And when we go to the mall, we'll do the World War II memorial first. And we'll do it like the Honor Flight does. I'll have some other companies down there with their shirts on and stuff, and they'll have the sidewalks lined and everything else. So when these World War II heroes get off the bus, they'll be greeted by veterans and other people, which will be applauding and saluting, whatever they want to do as they go into the memorial. We'll place a wreath on the memorial. And then, as much as they want to do in the mall, I mean, the mall is kind of spread out, as you know, but if they want to go to the Korean Memorial or Vietnam and stuff, we may have to get back in the buses to do so. And then we also had set up for Arlington Cemetery for the first day. So after we get done with the mall, we'll have lunch someplace and then go over to the Arlington Cemetery, which if nobody's been there, it's just an incredible thing to do as well. And
Nice
that-
word.
Yeah.
Hero. You said hero, did you not? The word hero.
Yep.
And that's what they are.
Yep.
I keep coming back to, because I looked this up, it's ingrained in my head, you know, the alternate universe site. And I keep thinking in my head about Rosie the Riveter. And I know that Rosie the Riveter wasn't necessarily, you know, in World War II, but gave a great effort.
She was part of the military-industrial complex.
Yes, but without that, couldn't have won,
That's right.
Right.
you know?
They're as much a hero as
Yeah.
the others
So,
are.
so you know, and Rosie the Riveter would be 90 herself,
Yep.
you know, so the average age is in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's amazing, because my brother was in there at the end of it. He was 17 when they got him, but it was 1945. Now, when I think about it, 17 in 1945, you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, he passed away a few years ago, and he was in his early 80s. So, yeah.
See, my dad would be 84 years old.
Was he in World War II?
No, if he were alive today, he'd be 84, and he was in Korea.
He was in Korea.
Yeah, Korea's only right behind there. You're
Right.
talking the 80s versus
That
the
was
90s.
1950.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this is strictly World War II.
we're hoping.
We're hoping. But World War II top priority.
Okay. but
So if we don't get the turnout of World War
then
II, we'll
then,
go
then
to
it
Korea.
spills over to Korea.
Korea.
Yep.
I got you.
Yeah. But our goal, obviously, is to get 45 World War II vets.
Mm.
And we have a lot of World War II vets in the North Shore area. It's just a question of whether they're healthy enough and if they really want to spend. It's actually going to be a 3-day trip.
Right.
So it's a little bit different than some of the honor flights where you fly down in the morning and fly back at night. It's going to be a 3-day adventure. So,
They're going to be standing on the base, huh?
yeah.
That's
Is it a military
cool.
base?
That's huge.
I love that idea.
Andrews Air Force Base.
Yeah, that's where the president flies.
I'm
mean-
hoping the president's plane is there.
Now, I used to
They'll be playing golf.
I used to cover the
Yeah.
I used to cover the presidential helicopters, but I don't think we'll be able to get near those.
Yeah.
But if they even can see them, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And the meal's going to, is that going to be provided by the armed forces?
No, they're going to give us a reduced rate for the meals. They're not going to provide those, but we may have a couple other
I
companies.
mean, I just think it'd be great at the mess hall. It's
Right.
like a remembrance for
Well,
me.
the officers club, right?
yeah.
Now, you made a great point at the break. You know, when we talk about the $500, that is so someone can go gratis. You know, it's a thank you. And, you know, a lot of folks, when they're in the 90s, they kind of outlive their savings no matter how well they planned.
Right, right.
You know, it's just, 500 is a lot of money for a 90-year-old
Somebody on
person.
fixed income, sure.
Well, we should highlight World War II vets are not paying anything. We'll raise the money to make sure
Right.
they don't pay anything.
Yeah, but they also have the companion.
Yeah.
You know, so you're talking about it's a double duty, right?
Right.
So both are going to be taken care of if we do the right fundraising.
If the money is so overflowing,
Right.
then
Oh,
obviously there would be enough to cover. But the priority is the veterans. The veterans would go free, and then we'll do the math and go down the budget and see what the, but in order to advertise, we had to put a dollar figure on.
yes,
on it,
exactly.
so-
Absolutely.
We should mention the companions may not be their spouse because their spouse may need care too. And so when you go down there, we need a companion who can actually take care of the World War II vet, he or she, while they're with them. So that's the reason for the companion. And then I don't know if you mentioned, but we have a couple of nurses going too, one in each bus to make sure we have
Yep.
health care.
That's where we could use some volunteers. I met this young boy, young man, I should say, when I substitute teach, and he deals with the kid one-on-one. Really nice kid. His name is Tom McNulty, and he's going to North Shore Community College, Human Services. And I asked him, why Human Services? He said, well, I thought it's a noble thing. I love that answer. He asked, I talked to you about this, Paul.
Right,
He
yeah.
asked about being a companion. He wants to be a companion. So I'm going to mention, Tom, if you're listening tonight, I know you do listen, you can get in touch with Paul at Gliss
Yep.
or my Italian friend here, right? And we'll hook you up with a companion. He gets a trip to Washington, D.C. on top of it, right?
Yep.
You'd work on that, right? Is that correct?
That's our hope, yes. So the 45 veterans, 45 companions. A veteran can designate their own companion, or we'll find volunteers
Right.
or staff members to play that role, so that if they need somebody, they can have somebody to help
But
them
the
out.
people have that noble, because what you folks do with Gliss is noble. What you do is noble. And I think we need more of it. And the thing that bothers me is the fading memory. You pointing to her?
Her last name is Noble.
You said Noble. My maiden name is Noble.
You're kidding.
Well, and if
See?
you
It fits.
see, and I'm waiting because my mother's sitting home watching. If she,
Mom.
big advocates in the city of Lynn. My mother held national presidency of the Polish Legion of American Vets. My father was an advocate. We just celebrated his anniversary of his death this weekend, but he was post 56 Lynn.
Yep.
And back in those days, even as a kid, it was the parades and the vet posts and
Oh, yeah.
everything. His legacy's still alive with the school band. He hooked them up with the military shoes, so they had a polished look. And the Bedford VA, they're still. That's my parents.
Wow. Mom, Paulie, this makes. I like the city voice when we have shows like this.
Yeah, absolutely. This is,
seriously.
this is, and I'll bet you, and people aren't calling in tonight because
I don't care.
it's not really. This isn't a segment for calling in,
No.
but I bet you the people at home are trying to figure out how they can participate and make this happen.
Well, it's like I said. What troubles me is the memories are fading, and somehow you have to keep it alive. I mean, those folks who happen to be Jewish keep talking about you can never forget the Holocaust. I don't blame you. You
Right.
never allow anybody to forget
Right.
that. We shouldn't forget what our vets did, and particularly in World War II, because we're here and we're living pretty good, and I've had a great life because of what they did.
Exactly.
And unless
Exactly
the
right.
United States does appreciate, and I have a problem today. Frankly, I think that we're not respecting our warriors like we ought to. We have a call, as a matter of fact. Joan, how are you, Joan?
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
I heard my name, so I had to call in.
Greg,
But the reason I'm calling, I really want to address Joe's comment about Rosie the Riveter.
go ahead.
Because I remember as a youngster, my aunts who worked in the GE, one worked in the Navy Yard, her going to work in the coveralls and a bandana around her hair so that she wouldn't get caught in the machinery. And she was Rosie the Riveter.
Oh my God.
That's unbelievable.
Way back. And I am very honored to serve the veterans. It was the greatest honor of my life when I was national president, and I strongly advocate people supporting this program. Not only the big corporations, but the small person at home who has a little extra to fund. Give it to support this program. It's wonderful. And I'm sure the people of Lynn will come through as they always do for our veterans. So I thank you for this wonderful show. I am enjoying it.
Well, thank
Thanks,
you,
John.
John. That makes you feel good, By the way, speaking of which, I don't know if we brought this up, and you can attest to this. There's 900 to 1,000 folks per day from World War II who are no longer with us each day. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a fact, yeah. We're losing a lot.
So we don't have much time
No.
to honor. I mean, because sooner or later,
Right.
oh man, I should know. I'm getting there myself. Come to think of it, time runs out on the clock.
Yep.
So let's do it.
Let's do
It
it.
is the
We have another
opportune
call
time.
up there? Oh, a minute to a break, guys. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, it is the opportune time as far as getting these World War II veterans, as many as want to come out and see the memorials to get out and do it.
And there's so much to do down in D.C. too. I mean, after the memorial and then after we go to the cemetery. I have a neighbor who not a World War II veteran, but he's a veteran nonetheless. He might be watching, John from Farrell Road, who told me about a an event that happens every night at 6:30, and I can't remember the street, but it's on the corner of one street and another, where it's a Marines. They come out and they do a little exercise. It's something that they do routinely every single night, and it's like the coolest thing you can ever do. And I didn't get to see it when I was down there last time, but I'm going to get that information, and I'm going to make sure everybody knows that it's an opportunity that they can down. It probably takes 10 minutes. But it's probably the thrill of a lifetime,
Now,
especially if you're a Marine.
Promise me that you're going to get these gals and the boys back again for another segment before the show.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a break. Well, folks, that's it. We'll be right back. Thanks a lot. Get them in for the... And we're back. It's axiomatic that we have Tim on the line. Hi, Tim. How are you? Tim? Are you?
Howie. That ceremony you're talking about takes place at the corner of 8th and I. That's Marine Corps headquarters. I've been there a few times, 4+ years in the Marine Corps.
Can you explain a little bit about how it goes?
Oh, they have the silent drill team out there sometimes. These guys are phenomenal. You get guys walking. They're throwing rifles with razor-sharp bayonets across and guys walking in and out. And the Marine Corps band comes out and plays. Sometimes you get the commandant, sometimes the president or his wife.
And it's like every night at 6:30, right?
Yeah, it's basically taps, you know.
Yep.
Colors are coming down.
Yep.
Big ceremony. Everyone's dressed to the nines, and the military people. And also, when you go to the cemetery, you got to go up to General Robert E. Lee's mansion, which is the property for Arlington National Cemetery. They took it over. Next to that, you're going to see gravestones. USCS. Do you know what that stands for?
No.
United States Colored Soldiers.
Wow, United States Colored Soldiers, USCS.
They buried them right there on Robert E. Lee's front stairs on purpose, as they get to Robert E. Lee for what he did leaving the government and going to the South. They buried him on his front lawn. It's a great trip. It's a big, if you've never been there, American History is a museum you want to see with the veterans.
Yeah.
You're going to need wheelchairs. They're available. Plan ahead. It's a big, big place. The mall is monstrous.
It sure is.
And each individual museum is a day in itself.
Timmy,
Okay, thanks for taking my call.
I was going to ask if Tim was a vet. I mean, he has really good information, doesn't he?
Yeah, he knows.
Consistently.
He's a very well educated man.
I guess.
Yes.
I mean, I've never been there.
Yeah.
You know, I may have to hook up, or I may be a companion.
There you go.
I'm serious because I've never been there, and frankly, like I told John, I certainly, and I appreciate this fact that I was never in. I got drafted while I was in college for Vietnam, and then they found out that I didn't hear that well, and I said, well.
4F.
Well, then but then they went after the 4Fs, and then by that time I was, had with Childs, and I got lucky, I guess. But I regret not having been in the service, to be honest with you, Paul. I wish I had spent at least a couple of years, because everybody in my family has been in.
Right. I actually signed up for the Navy.
Did you? I did too myself. Yeah.
I went through the battery of tests that they put you through. I actually went to Boston and took the physical and everything,
And
I just didn't go.
well, in this segment, folks, axiomatic. How do you like this? A pothole here, a pothole there, a pothole everywhere. Is there any cure to these potholes?
Well,
Paul?
I got to tell you something. It's kind of a funny thing. As a counselor at large, I didn't get bombarded by this like the ward counselors do. But when you have a snowstorm, the ward counselors get inundated with phone calls about clearing my snow and this problem that they're having, it's all snow related and so forth. And then just when the snow stops and everything starts to settle in a little bit, everybody looks and there's potholes everywhere. So you get a whole new round of, reaction from the.
This is a plague of potholes. I've gone through potholes in my lifetime.
Well, so let me ask you a question. Are you saying that there's something wrong with the city of Lynn because we have potholes?
Polly, I just went for $225 the other day. My tire went kaboom, right?
I get that.
All right, now,
I fell into a pothole
do I
the
think
other
there's
day.
something
They're
wrong?
more like sinkholes.
Either that, or they got the worst tire, or they got to get new contracts here, because these, they just tied these roads over recently, and they got holes, knee deep, all over the place.
I was driving down, it's been like this for maybe 10 days now, driving down Buffum Street on my way to work, and there is a patch where you know how the utilities come in and they cut the street open and they go down, and then they patch it over?
Uh-huh.
The patch itself has become a speed bump. I mean, it's like a frost heave, so it's up, and you have to. People are driving on the other side of the road just to go over because it's so high.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Look, we've got
wait a minute.
bombarded with snow and cold.
I don't want to hear it, folks. This is my proposition. I'm sick and tired of everybody. Oh, we got too much snow. Well, you know what? We haven't broken the record yet. We haven't, 1995 was 110 inches. We're at around 102 or whatever.
And we didn't have any potholes back then? Is that what
Not
you're
the
saying?
way we have them now, let me tell you. I'm telling you, this is an
Let me tell you
extraordinary
something.
amount of potholes.
They don't feel as bad when they're 20 years old than they do when they're a week old. Remember
Listen,
that. It's
here-
all.
no,
it's,
no.
it's a theory
Here,
of relativity.
Our number here is 596-9641, and I'm not going to throw it out to you, citizens of Lynn City Voice. I want to hear from you on this one. I propose that the idiots, and I'm calling them idiots, that decided to privatize the DPW were out of their minds. Because I like those big trucks that the city drove to plow the streets, Paulie. I like them when they picked up my garbage. I like them because it gave jobs to people that have a skill set for those jobs in the city of Lynn. I am proposing that this political season, which is coming up shortly, that whoever wants to get in city council or whatever in the city of Lynn should say, I want to bring back the DPW. For
we
God's sakes,
have a DPW.
Stripped down to it's barely breathing. Okay, it's on oxygen. We have exactly 2 electricians. We used to have 6. Okay, let's be real. If you want a city to look good, you have to have a real upscale DPW that fixes the potholes quickly, cuts the trees, makes the city look good coming in and out. Put every department, park department, janitorial services, the whole shooting gallery under the DPW. And you know what? Tell the Water Sewer Commission they can't touch the street. You need a street open, we do it, not you guys.
Well, I like that idea because what I've heard in the past is that when they've gone in there, the water and sewer, you know, they doesn't get back the way it can. You know, they don't do as good of a job as some of the others.
Because they're
do.
not the DPW.
Right. Well, so let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What you're proposing doesn't sound like it's coming from a conservative who wants to is always looking to cut costs.
Because privatization is not necessarily a good idea.
So you're saying that you think that we should figure out a way to do it where we bring it back into the city,
Absolutely.
and it doesn't cost more money.
It doesn't cost more money, even if it costs a little more money, because you're hiring and you're employing people in the city of Lynn who will be regenerating. The money gets recycled instead of it going off to 15 different directions out of the city. Okay? And I'm saying that the value that we get for it, cost-effective value, which is what we should be talking about, is value, is greater than it is now. There was a little old lady that my daughter was telling me about, and she just had a little small bag. She couldn't lift that thing that they gave her out to the curb, to the street. It was impossible. So she took her little bag and went to put it out there. Did they pick it up?
No, because it's got to be
Why?
on top. It's got to be purple, and it has to be on top of
Exactly. And now she's going to sell for $5? What kind of ridiculous thing is that?
Well,
Tim's on the phone. I'm sorry, Tim. I'm on one of my flyers here. How are you, Tim?
You got it. Joe, let it go. Let it out. That's what it's about.
What do you think?
Listen, people have been complaining about the traffic here in the city, how the streets are too small and blah, blah, blah. I look out my front window and my side window. I see 6 houses where the neighbors have gone out there. We're almost to the curb. One of my neighbors is to the curb the entire length of his property. Get out and help yourself. You got a pothole out there, go throw some sand out. There's sand buckets around the city. I mean, you know, we haven't had paved streets here since '66. Janie Teal promised them.
He's live from
She came through.
at these pits. I mean, these are sinkholes.
Oh, the sinkholes, yes. Do you remember back in the blizzard of '78
Certainly do.
when the ice was built up on the streets for 2 weeks, 6 inches, 8-inch potholes? You'd be on Boston Street trying to get on Broadway. You couldn't move. You get stuck.
yep.
They lower the blades. It takes up the tar. Mr. Crowley, the reason Saugus on Walnut Street is much better, the state comes down 129 to the Saugus line. They do it on Linfield Street to the Knights of Columbus.
So why don't
It's also plowed better by the state. The state does it. I know the guy who plowed Walnut Street, or one of them. He tells me he gets to the city line, he turns around and goes back.
There's an actual.
In that at 129, and it also happens on Linfield Street.
You know, he's absolutely correct here, Tim, because I noticed this. You're right, Tim, because I was driving down Walnut Street. All of a sudden, there was a sign there that I never saw before. This is the beginning of the state highway.
right?
Yeah,
Right?
there's no parking.
Yeah. He's right about that.
Well,
Okay, thank you very much.
so at least it's not that our contractors are different than the other contractors. I mean,
Well,
it's
let me
a
ask
question
this.
of the
Well,
equipment.
we have to go to a break now? Well, we're going to take this break, and folks will be back with potholes and other things. Stay tuned. Well, potholes and other things. And by the way, Polly, the game is about to start.
It's already
the Ides
started.
of March. You know what the Ides of March is all about?
It is. I do. Yeah,
What?
that was it Julius Caesar?
Minding his own business.
Isn't that when he got assassinated, or?
Yeah, he became a piñata. Is that what they
Right,
call him? You know,
right.
with all the senators. You know.
Yeah.
The Harry Reids of the world at that time frame.
Right.
They give them a little.
Right.
Yeah.
Beware the Ides of March.
That's right. Beware
March
the Ides of March.
15th.
So should we beware of the 2015 season, which is coming up Sunday? Brian LaPierre is going to have
His fourth fundraiser in 3 months.
whatever. But no, this is the kickoff, though. It's a comedy.
How can it be a kickoff? He's already had 3.
It's a kickoff. By definition, it's a kickoff at the Hibernian Hall. By the way, he's gone Irish.
Yeah. And I
know?
heard Jimmy Tingle's going to be he's going to have a comedian, Jimmy Tingle.
Is that a real name or is that
Yeah.
a stage name?
He's a friend of Bill W.
You're kidding me.
Yep.
So he's supposed to be a pretty funny guy, right?
Yeah.
And it's Sunday at 3 o'clock at the Hibernian.
I don't know, but
And you know who's going to have a kickoff the very next day?
Rick Starbutt is Monday night, right?
Right.
And this past Monday, the council president, Dan Cahill, had a fundraiser at
Which
the
means
Sports
he
Center.
can send some money to the fund.
Yeah.
Right. He's got the money.
He had a
to do it.
fundraiser down at the Sports Center.
Well, I think that both Starbutt is Monday night. He's at the Old Time Italian
Yep.
on Boston. I think his is from 6 to 9. So I'm going to ask LaPierre, I'm going to ask Starbutt, and I'm going to ask Danny Cahill for them to send a little check to Gliss for the vets.
There you go.
All right?
Yeah.
And when you get it, we'll announce it.
There you go. Yeah.
How's that one, huh?
Yeah.
That works out
Perfect,
pretty
yeah.
well. You know who's not running?
There's a lot of people not running.
Well, no.
I'm not running.
Gallo isn't running.
Yeah, he announced that during the week. Was
Not
it this
running.
week? Yeah.
Now, here's the irony.
Why do you
about it.
think he's not running?
I think he took a beating. You know, when you take a beating, you need a little time to recuperate, you know? And I don't think the garden thing helped him any. And that's coming back. I'll tell you, someone running for the school committee runs on a ticket to bring Gordon back. They're going to get elected. And here's an irony. The 3 men that were on the school committee are gone. There's no men.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
should we have affirmative action? Folks, should a man, I ask you, 781-596-9641, do we need men on the school committee? There are none now. And I mean, if we're going to talk about equality and equity,
Well, you know,
should be 2 or 3 men on there.
what's really important is, you know,
I hope
to your-
Cooksey runs, by the way. Bill Cooksey would be a perfect candidate.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that as long as I've been following politics, I've never seen this many open seats. You know, there are 3 open seats on the school committee out of
right.
6.
That's right.
3 of them,
Yeah.
which means that I don't think it's a reflection of the times or anything like that. It's just coincidental that you've got a guy who's moving over. One guy, let's see, Rick Starbutt is moving to council at large.
Yeah.
Gallo choosing not to run
Retired.
for re-election, and who's the
And
other?
John Ford is going
For what? Right.
Ward 7.
Right. So just a confluence of circumstances is creating quite a void on the school
That's a sweet
committee.
way of saying the opportunities have presented themselves.
The opportunities have presented themselves,
Yeah.
and you can do a lot of good things if you get on the school committee. And I would encourage anybody who is contemplating that to contact us and come down here and tell us what you think, and we can help you get your effort
Whatever,
off
yeah.
the ground, right?
Yeah. Look, I must tell you, seriously, the school committee is an important place to be, particularly when the budget in the city of Lynn is about, 50% the school budget. But, Carol, can you tell us, are you interested in running for the school committee, Carol?
Not really.
I'm
Listen.
woman already.
The reason I'm calling is I have a friend that lives up on Eastern Avenue in the elderly housing up there,
Uh-huh.
and they, meaning the people in the building, they did a beautiful job clearing it out. If the city did half the work, would be in good shape. But anyway, along the Eastern Avenue side, they have a stop sign up there for the elderly to go over to the restaurant across the way there.
Yep.
Well, they shoveled the thing outside on the Eastern Avenue side where the elderly building is. When you get across the street, it's a mountain over the other one. You can't get back.
Oh, boy.
So can you guys do anything? I tried to call the mayor, but they weren't in the office. But it's really, a friend of mine lives up there, and I really would appreciate it because they're losing business too. They're nice people in there,
Well,
I mean, we got to support our own merchants, you know.
absolutely. Well, what I will tell you, Carol, is I know the ward counselor from Ward 3 personally, and I will call him right after the show and ask him to see what he can do to get over there.
I don't know if it was like that a couple of days ago. I hope to God that I'm wrong, but would they check it out, please?
Absolutely. We'll get right on it.
Yeah.
Okie doke. I'm counting on you now.
Okay.
Hey, we love you. Paul, how are you this evening? Paul?
Yeah, Paul.
How are you, Paul?
Yeah, Joe, how you doing?
I've been doing pretty good. I'm surrounded by Pauls.
Listen, I don't have too much time, but what I'm going to do is I'll make an appointment with you, and I think I got some horror stories that you would be quite interested in.
Okay.
And some of them, Mr. Crowley probably would be too.
Yeah?
But Joe, you're, some of the stories, you're gonna, your mouth is gonna fall open.
Ooh.
And yeah,
Can-
this city's gone, Joe.
Are we?
And it takes somebody like you and Richie Calucci.
Ooh, Richie. He's
Richie,
yeah.
Richie's the ward counselor.
And
Well, listen, Paul. Send us a line when we get in touch with you, and we'll hook up.
Yeah, get his contact information, and we'll
yeah, this number's good to call and make an appointment with Joe, huh?
Sure.
Yeah, I got a few horror stories, Joe, that you're going to get kind of flabbergasted.
Okay,
We're gonna
Paul.
love this one, and everybody in City Voices, we're gonna be waiting for this one. Paul, thanks for the call. You know, I have to give kudos to the Lynn Fire Department. Folks, you should be proud of your Lynn Fire Department in the city of Lynn. And I'm gonna tell you why. You know, they're like sight unseen until you need them. I'm at English the other day.
Except for
Yeah.
at the supermarket on
What was
Sunday
that?
mornings.
Huh?
They're at the supermarket on Sunday mornings.
What about Superman?
Never mind. Go ahead.
Well,
I'm
just
sorry.
never mind.
Never
Tease
mind.
me?
Never mind.
Anyway, it was 0 degrees yesterday, freezing. All of a sudden, I'm at English High School with Mankello, talking to the vice principal, who is one of the toughest young ladies you'd ever want to see in your life. I mean, let me tell you something. I wouldn't like to get into a wrestling match with her. She'd break both my arms and legs. This girl is unbelievable. She's terrific. Anyways, bing, 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 sirens flying all over the place. What's going on here? I didn't know whether we were being attacked by ISIS or what. Next thing I know, everybody's running out the doors. It's freezing, 0 degrees. We're out there, and speaking of Mankello, she's herding all of the stray doggies, you know what I mean, making sure they're okay. Do you know within a very brief, really brief period of time, every fire engine you could think of was pulled up in front of that school? I mean, the response time is unbelievably fast.
Did somebody pull a fire alarm? Is that what happened?
I don't know what happened. All I know is...
It wasn't a fire, was it?
No, they went in and they checked it all out and let us back in. But, I mean, what impressed me was
how
these
quickly
young
they-
stallions, how fast they got there, jumping into their uniforms, their gear, and, their gear's not that light.
No.
And they're there in a flash. So let me tell you, that made me feel awfully good about the efficiency of that fire department. I'll tell you that right now.
And look, I applaud them for even wanting to do that job. You know, it's one of those jobs where hopefully they never have anything to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when, remember what that guy said when they were interviewing him on 911, and he said, "How do you feel about going into the building?" He says, "That's my job," and he went right into the building.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and once upon a time, in one of my incarnations, I was a sales manager for Johnson & Johnson, and I was out in Ohio, and I was staying at this motel in Ohio with a bunch of pilots, and we became friendly. They had nothing to do, and I had nothing to do by the pool, and I asked them about being a pilot. This is kind of exciting with Snoopy, with the open cockpit. These are the guys that actually flew that way, and then they became captains in small airlines, and then, United took them over. And I said, well, tell me about it. And here's how they define being a pilot. Hours and hours of boredom punctuated by a sheer second of terror.
The landing.
Yeah. Right. That's the fire department.
Right.
Is it? I mean, I saw those guys one time when I was a counselor. There was a big fire up in up the Highlands. August, 105 degrees. They're on top of the roofs with all that heavy stuff. I mean, they're dehydrating. They're vomiting all over the place. I mean, it's what they do is incredible.
Sure is. Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that, to be honest with you, Paul.
Yeah, no, I know it.
And we don't do. See, that's what I'm talking about. Public safety, police, fire, very important. Education is important, but I think the DPW is up there, and it's got to be brought back. Folks, I'm pleading with you to think about pushing the city to do something about the DPW, which we all benefit from.
Right, and it needs to be said that it's not that the people that are in the DPW are doing anything wrong. It's
No,
just
they
they're
gotta expand
undermanned.
it.
They're undermanned, is what you're saying.
The whole definition.
Right.
If you want to have a great city, you need a great DPW. They're the ones that fix the streets. They're the ones that do the infrastructure. Hey, I got some guys up my street right now on Lockwood Road. They've been there for 3 days. I don't know what they're doing. All kinds of trucks down there digging away. You know, we need folks that fix the sidewalks rapidly. I don't know what they're using for tar nowadays, but I honestly believe there isn't much there. 2 rainstorms, it's gone.
That's coal pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to wait until the spring before they can put real.
But that's not the point. The point I'm talking about, when they have the time to do it, they do some awfully strange stuff. I mean, I see sidewalks down on Lexington Street, you know, in Lynn,
Yep.
and they got little plaques in there, and they say built during the WPA in 1930s. They look as good as, there's not a crack in them. They're solid, right? I see stuff that's been put down, you know, last year. Three rainstorms later, it's talk about erosion on speed, on steroids, you
Right.
know? What the heck they put in there?
Right.
They don't put any substance, I don't think. It's all watered down. Anyways, we got a minute and a half to go, Paulie boy. How come you're so informal tonight?
Today's Wednesday, dress down day.
Really?
At work.
At your place?
Yeah, I just didn't have any meetings today, and I had to do a
To be honest
lot
with you,
of.
you look rather, rather chipper, with that nice V-neck and the blue shirt and the whole bit,
Thanks, Joe.
Relax.
And you're wearing a suit jacket today. No,
That's the
no
cover.
scarf. How come no scarf?
My scarf is over there. I do not leave without
I mean,
my scarf.
I think everybody looks forward to seeing a different scarf from you every week, especially during the cold months. And I think
But
they're all disappointed.
I wanted to throw them off. You have to throw them off once in a while. You can't give them everything they want. You realize that, this is a dynamic show that has its own flow. By the way, don't forget Axiom. Polly, what's an axiom?
It's a self-evident truth.
It is.
Yes.
It's a self-evident rule or principle or truth that doesn't need any proof.
Right.
All right? So you, Paulie, cannot go up on top of this building tonight, jump, flap your arms, and fly. So if you're born a certain way, it's self-evident that's who you are.
Right.
And
Gotta go.
We do?
Yep.
Until next week.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Paul.
Nice job.
These are my people, this is my song. Dirty streets where I belong. This is my town, this is my city now. This is my city now. 'Cause this is my town, this is my city through